I'm wondering what you would say to someone who has a sense of failure in love. They feel
Yeah.
that their relationship history has
Yes.
been
Oh,
a
yeah.
failure,
Yeah.
and they're not interested in monastic life. That wouldn't be moving forward for them. So that
Sure.
they're not interested in that choice. And they're stuck in a way because
Sure.
the idea of like, I just don't think I could ever trust anybody like that again. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
been so painful, maybe a history of betrayal, something like that.
Right.
I feel like my love life has been a failure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me first say, though, that the nun's choice being for me, that was some kind of karmic stepping into some stream of where my life could actually take off, you know. So it was a real opening for me. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a rare, rare bird where that seems
Yeah.
like. In fact, I haven't met anybody. I mean, I've met people who nuns or monks' life was a vocation for them, but they weren't coming out of my kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, I have had this situation with students and things like this. So, first of all, I'm always really interested in getting them to really look at the repeating pattern, because repeating patterns are valuable to see. So, if it's the situation you describe where they just keep having the same bad ending to their
Yeah.
relationships, then I say, so your practice is going to be fully contacting that feeling that you get about when the relationship yet again fails. Just really getting in contact with what it feels like there at the end again. And not jumping to any conclusions like I can never do this again, or conclusions about yourself like this means I'm fundamentally unlovable because as soon as they get close to me, it all ends, or whatever the storyline is. Let's try to have your practice be contacting that feeling and allowing yourself to really feel it. Because in that feeling, there is somehow all encoded, all the information you're going to need for how to unravel what the repeating pattern that keeps getting you stuck. So if a person works with that for a while, which is really difficult work, but we work together with it, then I say, okay, why don't you now get in touch with the feeling of at the beginning of the relationship? What is it at the beginning of all these relationships that hooks you, that draws you in always again to the same kind of person? Why is it that you keep choosing the same kind of person, you know? By the way, the same thing is true with students who keep getting in abusive relationships or any kind of repeating pattern. And so then that becomes really important work, is how it all gets started in the beginning, you know? So somehow the way it ends and what it's left you with seems to me that there's something in, I know for sure from having worked with people, that there's something in there that tells you why there's some kind of addiction or something that you're really drawn to that keeps ending this way, leaving you again, once again with this feeling. So somehow this feeling, as well as the feeling at the beginning of the relationship, they've got it kind of encoded in your DNA, and the way to untangle yourself from the ignorance or the confusion around it so that you go unconscious is to become very conscious of the feeling at the end and the feeling at the beginning. And I'll tell you, it really, really helps people to not get involved again in the same pattern. Something that's very common is that the student will get involved again. And then whatever drew them into the last 5 relationships or 10 or whatever is drawing them in again. And I say, okay, be really aware of what you're feeling at the beginning. And of course now, because of having done this work before, there is no ignorance or bewilderment or unconsciousness. They're really aware of what's happening at the very, very beginning. And so sometimes they don't go into the relationship. Sometimes they change their part of the dynamic, and then the other person doesn't want it. Or sometimes they change their part of the dynamic, and it works out differently.